the sewer, but look at us now. Entrepreneurs making moves in the clouds, doing the family proud. Follow the hustle, stop tripping, gotta blast off. If you ain't flipping, then you slipping, get that cash out. Follow the hustle, stop tripping, gotta blast off. If you ain't flipping, then you slipping, get that cash out. MOG, follow the hustle. Follow the hustle, Reezy. Tell them to follow the hustle. MOG, follow the hustle. Follow the hustle, Reezy. Tell them to follow the hustle.
Hey, what is up, everybody? Welcome to the show. What is up, Larry?
What is up, my friend? That intro goes hard. I was waiting for you to spit a few bars.
Shout out to the thriftologist. He's a reseller, but he also raps. I told him he should quit reselling, just focus on music because he's killing it.
Yeah, that was sick.
Shout out to
chilling, my friend.
Yeah, shout out to all the people that are showing up on the show. Give us a quick 1-2 on the audio in the video. Let me know what it looks like. Looks like we're getting some feedback, and I think we are good to go. So today's guest, you guys all know who it is. It's Larry, aka Watch Me Amazon, one of the top Amazon wholesale kings in the social media influencer space. Follow him on Instagram, YouTube. You guys know the deal. But today's show, we are going to talk about everything and anything that is wholesale related. So without further ado, Larry, do you want to do like a quick 5-minute piece on how you got into wholesale and your background and maybe, you know, where you were versus where you are, so that people who don't know who you are and haven't heard the story can, you know, it's the Gary V baseball card talk.
Yeah, that is always a interesting topic. I think maybe even a little more interesting than the nuts and bolts of wholesale. But what is up, everyone? My name is Larry Labarsky. I am from Brooklyn, New York, born and raised. Started selling on Amazon back in, I believe, end of 2011, beginning of 2012. Not, super educated, high school dropout. Grew up in the hood. My father was shot and killed and actually passed away when I was 12 years old. So single mom raised me. We were on welfare. As I mentioned, dropped out of high school to pursue a job being a stockbroker, a la the Wolf of Wall Street type shit. Had some decent years, but for the most part, that business absolutely sucked ass. Didn't really make any good money there. Accumulated a ton of debt my 10 years doing that. And just got to a point in my life, circa 2010, 2011, where I was 6 figures in debt, back taxes, not happy with my life, couldn't afford to buy anything nice, go anywhere, wasn't really where I thought a person who is, a 30-year-old man should be in life. And what I was doing is I didn't really want to, when I was a stockbroker, I didn't really want to bite the bullet and admit failure. So I kept spinning my wheels and, one bad year turned into 2, turned into 3, turned into 5. Next thing I know, hated my life, hated my career, hated my job, and was desperately looking for a way out. Anyway, guys, long story short, in about 2010, I hit rock bottom. I quit my job, thankfully, because, there's really nothing there holding me back other than just force of habit. Girlfriend kicked me out of the crib at 30 years old. I went back home to live with my mom, basically, with my tail between my legs, destitute, not a pot to piss in. And finally, once I had made the decision to leave my previous career, I needed to find something new. And I wasn't thinking career. I was thinking job. I was thinking 9 to 5. I was thinking, I'm in debt. I need $400 or $500 a week just so I could, keep the cell phone turned on and pay the bills. So I was reaching out to anyone and everyone that I knew. One of the memories that stands out, I remember I was going pizzeria to pizzeria in Brooklyn, looking, if they needed a delivery guy, someone to deliver pies and shit like that. And just by chance, one of my friends who at the time was operating a brick and mortar retail optical store. He had a website associated with the store where they were selling glasses, and he had offered me a job, just a regular customer service job, picking up the phone, speaking to customers of his e-commerce site, shipping out products, things like that. So took that job, was happy with it, was making $400 or $500 a week or whatever it was at the time. But for me, that was phenomenal because that was like the first steady, consistent money that I had in a really long time. It also turns out that this individual was a Amazon seller, and I didn't know the first thing about Amazon. I didn't even know that selling on Amazon was a thing that existed, but he was an Amazon seller. So he owned an optical store. He also owned a beauty salon, and he leveraged those two businesses to sell those products related to those industries on Amazon. And he was doing pretty well. And he approached me one day and he said to me, Larry, I'm selling on Amazon. I'm doing very well. I want to expand to Amazon overseas, and I need someone basically to run the show for my Amazon UK business. I'll provide the accounts. I'll provide the capital. I just need someone to do all the work and figure everything out. He explained to me the very, simple A, B's, and C's of Amazon. Here's what a product sells for. Here's the FBA calculator. Here's how to figure out a profit. Here are the list of all my vendors. Let's see if we can make something with the Amazon UK happen. And again, long story short, guys, I did it. I fell in love with it. I developed a passion for it. I was still working the 9 to 5 at the customer service job, but every waking moment, nights, weekends, middle of the night, because I was working with someone else's money. I was just, grinding like crazy. And I think with definitely probably 6 months, but for sure within that first year, we turned that business, or rather I turned that business into a very profitable, lucrative 7-figure Amazon business. And the rest has been history. I started making enough to where I can quit the customer service job, do the business full time. And I've been doing it ever since and just absolutely love it. And, one of the reasons why I think that I was so successful with Amazon and not that successful as a stockbroker is it gives you such an edge when you love what you do, when you genuinely have a passion. And as a stockbroker, even though, maybe in those first couple of years I was passionate about it, but, the last 5+ years in that industry, I hated coming to work. I would get to my office, to my cubicle, I would get to work, I would want to leave. I had no passion. There was just, I had the drive to just get out of there. And like an absolute loser who would cut school, I was cutting work because I had no passion for it. But Amazon had a ton of passion for it, loved it, saw the potential, and, just doing something that you absolutely love, I think that gives you a tremendous edge to really excel at it.
Dang, that's awesome, man. I've heard most of that story, but there was a little bit that I hadn't heard before. I didn't realize that you got your start with an optical company, which is crazy because I worked in an optical laboratory when I was 16, and I had a kid and I dropped out of high school. That was my first legit job. I did a telemarketing job, and then I got a job working at an optical laboratory. I lied and said I was 18. I was only 16, but I was grinding lenses, finishing lenses,
Yeah, my boys were doing the same thing, grinding the lenses.
I was running a small laboratory with like $1 million of equipment in it. So I have a little piece of my heart for, optical stuff. And now after social media ing my eyes to death, I wear glasses also. So that was a cool little tidbit. So from there, from learning, you ended up breaking out and doing it all on your own, correct? And if I'm not,
it wasn't really planned. So I was, and this is one of the detriments to sometimes working for your friends or with your friends or being in business with close friends, is oftentimes it doesn't work out. Something goes left and then the friendship ends up dissolving. And this is someone that I went to high school with, was a close friend of mine. Can't say was one of my very best friends my whole life, but definitely a close friend. And, the couple of years, the 2 or 3 years that we worked together, we developed a very strong friendship. We were best friends at that point. This is someone that was in my wedding party, and I considered making my best man because he had helped me really come out of, the doldrums and come out of shit and, put me on a path where I was, able to create some success and turn my life around, get married, pay off my debt, just really have a bright future. And I owe that to him. But for whatever reason, and, most of the time it's either just greed or stupidity, he tried to fuck me over. I don't know why. I think the real reason why is I turned that Amazon European business into a super profitable business, more profitable than even his Amazon US business. He had other partners. I think they were I was working on like a commission basis. They would literally every month we would sit down, we would calculate the profits, and I would get a commission. And I think that, hiring me initially to work in his optical store for $500 a week, to all of a sudden every month I'm sitting down with him and he has to, count up, shit, this month I have to give you 10 grand. Next month I have to give you 20 grand. Then I guess they just got tired of paying me that loot. And, they started doing some shady shit. They cut my commission down from here to here to here. And they kind of tried to push me out of the business. And there was just a bunch of shady shit that's, probably not interesting and we don't need to get into. But long story short, I eventually gave him the peace sign and left. And when I had left, I wasn't rich. I didn't have a ton of capital, but, I paid off most of my debts. I was in a good place and I had all this knowledge from building this Amazon European business. And, I left him, wanted to start my own Amazon thing, finally work for myself. So in 2014, that's when I made the transition of working for someone to starting my own Amazon business. One of my best friends, who is thankfully still one of my good friends to this day, he invested his, pretty much the bulk of his life savings into my idea, into my potential, into this Amazon business. And we took that initial.
What that amount was? Is that okay?
Yeah, he invested 50 grand.
And then, so that 50 grand, how long ago was that?
That was in 2014. I remember our first shipment to Amazon FBA was the weekend of the Mayweather-Pacquiao fight. And that was in 2014, and that was our first shipment. Correct.
Okay, 6 years ago, 50 grand. What is that 50 grand producing annually now in revenues? I guess is the easiest way, unless you happen to know profit.
Yeah, so on revenue, we're producing about $15 million per year in sales. We've been as high as 18 and some change, although in the last year and a half, those numbers did dip a little bit. Profits are extremely healthy. We run at a very nice margin, anywhere between 10 to 15% net margin, depending on, the type of year and depending on like the currency in Europe and all that kind of stuff. So
after everything, right? After the cheap,
except for taxes, not taxes.
Yeah, not. You can't say taxes. Everyone has different taxes. Everyone has a different CPA. You know what I mean? So.
Yeah, so correct. So we took that $50,000 and we spun it into a business that does, $15, $16 million a year, and a nice seven-figure profit conservatively. Kind of through the snowball effect of spending the 50, getting back 60, reinvesting the 60, turning it into 80, reinvesting the 80, turning it into 100. Along the way, though, we did invest some of our capital back into the business. I think on top of that initial 50, we each invested about 175 grand over the years into the business. So that's like another
175 was generated through profits that came from the original 50, right?
Correct.
Okay, cool. And now, you have another wholesale business. You have two different separate wholesale businesses now, correct?
So we actually have 5 Amazon accounts that we run. They're all independent businesses. But I guess it is fair to say that we do have 2 separate businesses, because I have, half of those businesses with one partner and I have another half of those businesses with another partner. Right. And they have multiple accounts. They have multiple businesses. But yes, that is correct. I have
we see the social media. You know what I mean? You're looking fly in that Amazon yellow orange McLaren. Right? It's a McLaren.
Yes, sir.
So which drop it out there. What car is that? That shit is fly.
That is McLaren GT. And
2019.
That is a 2020 brand new McLaren GT. And one of the things, Reezy, that I like to do for myself, I know some people, may not be into cars, may not be into watches, may not be into flashy things, and that's fine. I don't do it to show off. I do it because I am genuinely into those things. I get a tremendous amount of pleasure from it. But one of the things that I do is every year I set out goals for myself, business goals, and if I hit those goals, rightfully so, I reward myself with something nice. Could be a very lavish vacation, could be a Rolex, could be an Audemars Piguet, could be McLaren GT next year. Who knows what the hell it's going to be?
And Rolexes and McLarens are fucking awesome if that's what you're into or if that's what motivates you. And goals are even better than McLarens and Rolexes. And let's come back to goals in a second. But what I want to talk about is everyone sees the McLarens, everyone hears the $15 million a year. But I want to know what it was like in the early years after the 50,000 was put in. What kind of work was going on? What did the operation look like? What, you know what I mean? How many hours were you working a day? What was the grind like? Because that's what people are going to have to do if they want a McLaren or a Rolex and they got 50 grand to put down. Maybe they only have 10 grand to put down right now, and it's going to take them a little bit longer. So what do they have to entail, and what was it like to get to the McLaren?
So I'll tell you, prime Larry Lebarski, circa 2011, when I was broke, when I was hungry, when I did not have a pot to piss in. There is no one on earth that worked harder than that guy. You know, I'll say right now that I don't work as hard as that guy worked. And, you know, I guess to have different priorities, and when you have that fire lit under your ass and you don't have that pot to piss in, it makes you work really, really hard. And, you know, again, one of the reasons why I didn't really work out in the financial industry as a stockbroker is because I didn't have that hunger. But when I finally left that business and I found Amazon, I developed, guys, such a hunger, like nothing was going to stop me. And in the beginning, when I first started working, I would have the 9-to-5 job every single night. I didn't have a girlfriend. I didn't have a social life. Nights, weekends, I would come into the office, and every waking moment that I had, I would devote it to my Amazon business. Now, that doesn't mean that's for everyone. I remember even my partner at the time called me up and said, listen, you're working a little too much. You're probably going to burn yourself out. But I saw the potential. I had a goal. I had a tremendous amount of, you know, hustle and drive. And I was just working every single waking moment. And again, people watching it, you don't have to work that hard. You don't have to work 24 hours a day. But the one really cool thing about the Amazon business, how much effort you put into it directly correlates what your results are going to be and how fast you are going to achieve those results. So again, you know, it doesn't matter if you work 18 hours a day, 12 hours a day, 8 hours a day, but it is one of the only businesses in the world where you see the fruits of your labor. You see those results so quickly. You know, you hear businessmen or businessmen and women or people talking about, you know, I'm going to invest in a business, and if I break even, if I just make my money back in 2-3 years, it's considered a success. But Amazon is one of the only businesses that, you know, you can work and literally month 3, 4, 5, you're already getting your loot back. You're already turning a profit. And then just the harder you work, the faster it's all going to, you know, escalate for you.
So I know you said you worked hard, but like, let's get into the more of the details of like how hard, like, was there any nights that you slept at the warehouse? Were you?
There was plenty of nights that I slept at. There was plenty of nights at the warehouse. So I'll tell you one of the things that I remember the most. This was right around the time that HBO Go first came out. And again, I had nothing to do. I didn't have a social life. If my friends wanted to chill or go somewhere, I didn't have money to do it. You know, I didn't have a relationship at the time. I wasn't going out on dates or dinners or anything like that. So I would work my 10, it wasn't a 9-to-5, it was a 10-to-6 job. And the Amazon office, or the little warehouse that we had at the time, that was located up the block from the optical store where I worked. So from 6, I would go to the store, to the warehouse rather. I would smoke a little pot, which is something that I like to partake in on my leisure time. But I would just work from 6 to 10, 11 to 12. I would watch HBO Go, and I would just sit there at my desk watching TV and just labeling. And I would, you know, work into the wee hours of the night, would get tired, would go home, would go to sleep, go to work, rinse and repeat the next day. And I would do that nights, and I would do that weekends, and I would do that as much as possible. Because again, it's one thing when, you know, if you want to be a doctor, if you want to be a lawyer, you kind of have to put in the same type of man hours. You have to work 18, 19, 20 hours a day and study and all that kind of stuff. But you might not see the fruits of your labor until 3, 4, 5 years from now. But Amazon's the only type of business where if you go hard like a motherfucker, if you work 24 hours a day this month, you're going to start getting paid. You're going to start cashing those checks, you know, 60 days from now. So, it just kind of fuels the fire. But yeah, if you want to go into the nitty gritty of the hours, it was probably at least 12 to 18-hour days in the beginning.
Right. So you mentioned the warehouse, but before you had the warehouse, you guys were operating out of a house, if I'm correct, right? Now,
So that when I say warehouse, that
go ahead. Go ahead.
So
Sorry.
when I say warehouse, that first place where I worked for my friend, it was technically a house. It was a ground floor rental apartment of a multifamily house. So it had the apartment. It had like the garage, and it was a quote unquote a warehouse, but it wasn't really a warehouse. It was a house, and we operated out of that house. It was a residential property that had a little work done to it, and it was turned into a quote unquote warehouse. After I had left that business and started my own business, we initially started out of an apartment building. So my friend lived in an apartment. We worked on out of the 13th floor of his mom's house. We would bring, fill up the car, and, using a hand truck, would just bring boxes upstairs, prep it, label it, pack it. When UPS is coming, we would arrange with the driver to let us know when they're coming. When they're on their way, we would wheel everything downstairs in the regular, residential elevator and start palletizing boxes in front of the building, waiting for UPS to arrive. Eventually, that apartment operation turned into a small house that we rented, a small 2-bedroom house with a garage area.
Were you living there too, or no?
Residential. Yes, but all in Brooklyn.
You were living in the
and
house
then,
in?
No. I wasn't living in the house, no.
So no one was living there. It was a straight trap house.
That's right. It was a straight trap house, and it had a driveway. We can wheel pallets in and out of the driveway and into the garage, and we just made it work. And it wasn't until 2014 is when we were doing our first shipments. It probably wasn't until, I would say, 2016 when we rented might be 2015, but I think 2016 when we rented our first warehouse. And for those of you who follow me on social media, the Red Hook warehouse where we threw up the Money Team logo on the wall, that was the first official warehouse.
That's the warehouse
that
I've been to, correct?
Correct.
You still operate there?
No, we moved. So we moved that warehouse. So that business, we're not there anymore. My partner, Dennis, who you have met, we moved that whole operation to Jersey. So commute-wise, it's roughly the same thing from my crib to Red Hook as it is to Jersey where we moved there, except rent is about 60% cheaper.
Makes sense.
So we moved that whole operation over there, and then I partnered with...
You still got the pull-up
Say that
bar?
again?
You guys still got the pull-up bar?
Nah, not in the new
I remember when I met Dennis, he was like, "What's up?" And then it was like 2 seconds later, he was just pumping out some pull-ups on the pull-up bar. You guys had a little workout.
They pump iron.
So, but there was some hardships, right? I don't know the exact details, but I've seen the pictures on social media. You had a flood at the house or something. What was that all about? There was a storm. A bunch of products got ruined.
So this was during Hurricane Sandy. And this was still when I didn't have my own Amazon business, but when I was working for this other guy. I don't remember the exact year Hurricane Sandy happened, but that's when we had that. I was working for my friend at the time. It was his Amazon business. I kind of treated it as my own Amazon business because I wasn't a salaried employee and I was getting a commission of all the profits. So even though I didn't own the business or have equity in it, if the company made money, I had a piece of that profit. If the company didn't, I wouldn't. So I treated it as my own business. But it was when I was working for him, Hurricane Sandy hit. We were in an area of Brooklyn that got flooded really bad. And I remember, showing up to the office that next day, and we can see the watermarks on the ceiling or close to the ceiling. Probably the whole warehouse flooded, probably about 8 feet deep. And the majority of the stuff in there was ruined. But thankfully, the products that we were selling at the time, those were beauty products, and they were mainly, shampoos, conditioners, all that kind of stuff. So it wouldn't really get water damaged. But we spent the next month digging through the debris, taking all those items, cleaning them, refurbishing everything, and then resending everything back to Amazon FBA. And that was just another, another punch in the face. Everything was, going so well for me. I was making money. Hurricane Sandy hit, the warehouse got wiped out, and there was a pause in our business where I think for the next 2-3 months, we weren't shipping products really to Amazon FBA. We were kind of recuperating and fixing and, looking for a new warehouse and, digging our products out of the dirt. So that kind of sucked because, if we're not shipping products to FBA, I'm not getting paid. So that was, a little sucky.
Right. It would have been a lot different if it was books. They would have been completely ruined.
Would have been completely wiped out, and there's no insurance or anything like that. And there was a bunch of other stuff, all the supplies that you pay for, computers, desk, furniture. Not every single product is a plastic waterproof shampoo bottle. There was a ton of products that did get damaged and did get ruined, but even then, hard work persevered. So I remember my friend, who I was working for, he lived maybe 5-6 blocks away from there. He rented an apartment in the same apartment building where he lived in. And we were showing up at the warehouse, digging through the rubble, taking anything salvageable that we can salvage, putting it in a box, putting it on a hand truck, and carting it 5-6 blocks up the road to his apartment. And we would, for the next couple of months, work out of that apartment, not like receiving and shipping inventory, but just cleaning, fixing, prepping our inventory, and shipping it back to Amazon. But good times. I look back at all those hardship times very fondly.
Yeah. What doesn't kill you makes you stronger, right? It's kind of what
correct.
What I've been thinking about this whole scenario is that, and by this scenario, I mean this current coronavirus stuff that everyone's all going through. I wouldn't say everyone's going through equally. Some people got more money, got different options or whatever, but as far as being a business owner or being a reseller, an Amazon reseller, an eBay reseller, or whatever, if you survive this, I don't think much else is going to be able to take you down, right? Like I was just joking about it today. I was like, some shit will happen and you'll be like, yeah, whatever. It ain't like, that time when I had to figure out how to make money without leaving my house for 8 weeks.
Yeah, it's one of the things that people who are watching this and who follow me for a long time, they'll know it's one of my favorite things to say. The Amazon business and your success in the Amazon business, really, this business is all about just dealing with adversity, dealing with different issues, and your career as an Amazon seller, you're just going to deal with headaches. You're going to deal with coronavirus. You're going to deal with Hurricane Sandy. You're going to deal with, your account getting suspended. You're going to deal with, losing products. You're going to deal with brands cutting you off. You're going to deal with partners trying to fuck you over. It's one issue after the other is really to me, that's the definition of being an Amazon seller. It's dealing through those issues. And the more of those issues you overcome and persevere through, and you come out the other side not quitting, and you're still doing it, that's when you are on the path to success. Because a lot of people will quit from those issues. But the whole business, every single person who's been selling for a long time can relate to it. There's issues after issue after issue. You got to figure out how to, how to adjust, how to pivot, how to work through them, and that's when you're going to be on the way to success.
Yeah, and on the list of people that are, considered Amazon sellers by other Amazon sellers. And so it's weird. I think about people who sell on Amazon, and I'm specifically just talking about Amazon for this live show right now. But I think anybody can become an Amazon seller and make good money for a year, for 2 years. But who are the people that, shout out Empathy Wines, keeping us hydrated?
There we go.
Who are the people that are still selling on Amazon and making a living? I don't care how much money you're making. I just care and I don't really care at all even, but I'm just saying as far as how I consider, the people who are my peers who have longevity, right? You made some money, cool. You're making a living off Amazon. What about year 2, year 3, year 4, year 5? The people that have been selling on Amazon still 4 years later, 5 years later, through recessions, through fee increases, through long-term storage fees, etc. Those are the people that I know are the strong ones. Those are the ones that survive and continue to thrive on Amazon amidst, because that's what we're doing. We're playing in Jeff's sandbox, and you can cry about it or you can adapt because there's nowhere else that has this amount of traffic.
I'll tell you something, and this will blow a lot of minds. And it's also something that I say a lot because it's true. You can find a ton of people who have tried selling on Amazon, didn't work out for them. They weren't successful. It wasn't profitable. But those people have been selling on Amazon for the first 6 months to 1 year. It is, in my opinion, almost impossible to find someone who is year 2, 3, 4, 5, 8 on Amazon who is not successful. So it's just about getting to year 2, to year 3, to year 4. If you can deal with those hurdles and all the issues that come your way, and there's going to be a shit ton of them that come your way, but if you can get past that first year, I have never met someone who's been selling on Amazon for 2 years and they're not successful, 3 years and they're not making money, 4 years and they're not doing well. That's virtually impossible. Everyone who's, selling on Amazon, not doing well or complaining about it, they've tried it, they lost it. That was all in year 1. They never made it through those hurdles. The people who make it through to year 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, you're never going to find someone who's telling you, I've been selling on Amazon for 2 years and it's not working out well. That's very hard to come by.
Yeah. They got other problems if that's the case. Definitely. So let's go into the meat and potatoes of the show, and let's talk about some basic stuff. Like, here's a question I'm sure you get pretty often. Hey, Larry, I got $500. What should I do? How do I start my wholesale business?
So with $500, it is going to be tough, honestly. One of the questions that I get asked the most is how much do you need to start? My typical generic answer is you need at least $3,000 to $5,000 minimum. Doesn't mean 3,000 to 5,000 is a good place to start. It's not really a good place to start. It is on the minimum place to start. This business in general, the wholesale business or any wholesale business model, doesn't matter if it's Amazon or if it's off Amazon. It's a business that's, based around large sums of money. The more you have, the easier it is, the faster you can scale. This is a business that is, it's about quantity over quality, so to speak. So with $500, it's tough. Now, that being said, there for sure, and I know a bunch of these people, there are for sure people who started their wholesale business with $1,000, with $1,500, even with $500. So I don't want to say that it's impossible. It's just extremely difficult because most vendors that you open accounts with, they're going to have a minimum purchase order, and that minimum could be 500, could be 1,000, could be $2,500. But wholesale is a game where the more money you have, the less your barrier to entry is, and it's tough to open accounts with vendors when you only have $500 to spend. So my guidance to the person who asked that question, it's what I've been telling people all the time when they tell me I only have 300 or $500. Do retail arbitrage, do online arbitrage. I always tell everyone, follow my man Reezy Resells with $500. He'll show you the fastest way to flip that 500 into $3,000. And then when you have $3,000, then you can finally start, and again, I don't want to discourage people. There are 1,000,000%. There are people who have started wholesale with $1,500, with $2,000, but you should understand wholesale is a business of numbers. It's a business of, volume. It's a volume business. We're looking to sell a volume of products. So it's tough when you have $500.
All right. So let's assume someone has signed up for your Wholesale Academy and they have $5,000 and they are ready to get started. What's the next step?
Well, the next step is then
having an Amazon account, right? And so obviously they got to get signed up for Amazon. They need to get educated, but they got $5,000, but they're not ungated in a lot of different brands. So how does that work out for that person?
So typically, and this is one of the great things about the wholesale business model, is if you're, opening accounts and buying products from established, legitimate wholesale suppliers or even the manufacturers directly, the invoices that they are going to give you is typically enough to get you ungated in some of those categories. And if you can't, and I know this is one of the things you like to say all the time also, if you just have 6 months of sales history behind you and you don't have any big mistakes or issues with your account, if you've just been selling successfully for 6 to 12 months, you're going to start getting automatically approved in, a bunch of these categories, in almost every category. Well, if you have a good sales record, sales history with your Amazon account. But yeah, if you're, buying products from the manufacturer directly or from a, recognized wholesale distributor, the invoice that they are going to give you is typically what Amazon is asking for in order to get your account ungated. Whereas if you're doing online arbitrage or retail arbitrage, those receipts from CVS might not be enough.
Right. All right. So I'm going to do something a little tricky. I'm going to bring in a live guest to ask a question on video. I've never done this before, so bear with me, guys, Larry and all of the live guests. Please smash the like button if you guys like this video. Appreciate it. Keep the questions coming. If you want to be featured on the show, text your question to 209-837-3399, the number that's on the bottom of the screen. But right now we're going to bring in Autumn, who hopefully has a question for Larry.
Hi, Larry, Reezy. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can.
Oh, excellent. Thank you so much for taking my question. So this might be somewhat broad, so I'll try to keep it simple. So I recognize that it may vary by state, but I'm looking at what the first steps would be when considering wholesale. As an example, I'm hearing that you need certain licensing, you may need to set up a business entity, just things of those nature. So I'm looking at what would be the first steps to look into in your state.
So the first step is just incorporating a legal business entity. And when you're, the wholesale business is like a business. It's a B2B business. It's a business to business type business. And, manufacturers, brands, distributors, wholesalers, they don't want to work with mom and pops who are, eBay sellers out of the garage. They want to work with businesses. So it's imperative if you're looking to pursue wholesale in a serious way, you need to have a legitimate business entity. That's it. Whether it's just incorporating in your state, whether it's S Corp, C Corp, you'll have that conversation with your accountant. They'll point you in the right direction of what type of business entity you need. But that's pretty much it. All you need is a legal business entity, and you're off to the races after that. That's pretty much the only thing. There's not much licensing. You have to have like a resale certificate or a seller's permit, which is just something you can find and print out online or have your CPA apply to. But really the only, the only license, quote unquote, that you need is you need to be a legal business entity. Wholesalers want to sell products to companies, not individuals.
Fantastic. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much, Autumn. Hold on one second. We're getting a little mixed up, but we're doing good with the new software. I think we're doing good. We're going to bring in Matthew right now, who has a question for Larry as well. Matthew?
Hey guys, how's it going?
What is up, Matt?
Thanks for taking my question. I watched most of your YouTube videos, Larry. I love it. I love your positivity. Thank you.
Thank you, brother.
Looking back, would you always have gone with your own warehouse? Would you have used a prep center? Would you done a hybrid, or would you do something that I haven't even mentioned?
No, I like the warehouse. And again, I think we started the right way in a sense where the first couple of years we were doing it, we weren't in a warehouse. So if someone is completely new and they don't have the volume to support a warehouse, you don't need to rush out and go and get a warehouse. We only got a warehouse because that I mentioned earlier, we were operating out of a house that we rented. The products in the house, they were to the ceiling. We didn't have any room to move. And that's when we made the transition to the warehouse. The downside to that is in the beginning, when you're starting out, it makes it a little harder to open accounts with vendors. Some of them will look up your address. If they see it's a residential address, they might not want to sell to you if you don't have that commercial address. So in the beginning, a prep center might be nice because you don't have that, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 nut that a warehouse is going to cost you every single month. And you do have the benefits of a warehouse where you have a commercial address. You have, you can give that to vendors and play off the prep center as, it's your own warehouse. So you have that advantage in the beginning if you need it. But yeah, the reason why we still use a warehouse to this date is we process, anywhere between, I don't know, 35 to 50,000 units a month. And, even if we had a great deal with a prep center out there, it would still be far more expensive than what we're able to pay ourselves with our own warehouse. On the other side of that coin, when you're just starting out and you're sending your first 500 units to Amazon, let's say you find a prep center and they're going to charge you $1 a unit. Well, that's going to be a $500, a hit that you have to take. But if if you're just starting out and you're sending 500 units to Amazon and you take on the expense of a warehouse, which can be a couple of $1,000s, all the fees and, utilities associated with that, it's a big fixed expense. So it might be a lot in the beginning. So my advice is, in the beginning, make things work, use a prep center, work out of your own house. When you have the volume to support the business, you can look to get your own commercial space and get your own warehouse. However, that being said, there's nothing wrong with, I've met a bunch of people who they just don't want the hassle of dealing with a warehouse. They rather pay a little bit more and not touch anything and be able to work from home and have a prep center handle it. If there's enough margin in your products where we're at probably like 20 cents a unit all in on our cost. If you have enough margin and you want to stick with a prep center and not handle any of the physical products, you can go that route. But never, rush out and get a warehouse and sign a lease, for multiple years for something if you don't have the inventory to support it in the beginning.
Awesome. Cool. I'm really digging this, this bringing the live guests in. You're feeling this, Larry?
Yeah. Yes, sir. And I saw Matt was sitting there and he had all those boxes behind him. And, that's how we were operating. And we only considered a warehouse where it got to the point where, it just wasn't efficient. There was only so much that we can receive. Our warehouse was not our warehouse, our little house / warehouse was packed floor to ceiling.
In it, I'm pretty sure that's a warehouse.
Yeah.
Awesome. So, Larry's wholesale course is called the Wholesale Academy. There is a link down in the description if you guys would like to sign up. I'm giving a free bonus to anyone that signs up using my link. You're going to get a copy of my Book Bolo Bundles guide, which is a $67 value. It includes a lot of information about how to make money off of books that you previously thought were worthless. The link is in the description. Keep sending the questions in. The next video question we have is actually from my intern, Austin, who is a straight hustler. This kid is local to me, Larry. He's 16. He reached out to me and was like, hey, I want to help you out and I want to work for you. And I was like, okay, cool. Well, I can pay you this much. You know what he said? He said, I don't want to be paid. He said, I want to learn. I want to learn.
Yes.
And he shows up and he works and he just gets shit done. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce you guys to Austin Hustles. Austin, what's up?
Yo, hello. Am I here?
Austin, what's up, man?
Yeah. Yo, thanks for having me on, Reezy. What's up, Larry? The question I got is, so I have a 15 by 10 storage unit. What could I realistically do from there with wholesaling?
You can fill that storage unit to where it's exploding at the seams, I guess.
Yeah. Nice. How much? Yeah, I'm really just have like no clue about wholesaling at all. Like, how much profit you think I could get out of that small little space?
I mean, what is it, 10 by 15? Or it's tough to say because every item is different. There's big items, there's small items. It's really, you're only limited based on your hustle. And then, if like Reezy speaks very highly of you in a sense that you're willing to do whatever it takes. So I'm sure that if you were to open a wholesale account with a vendor and if you were to get products that, filled your storage unit to capacity and then you didn't have any more room for them in the storage unit, you would figure out whatever you needed to do, whether it's take the shit home to your house, to your mom's house, to Reezy's warehouse. You would do whatever you need to do to make it work. And that's really what the gist of being an Amazon seller is all about. So I don't think you should look at your storage space as any sort of limitation or having anything at all to do whatsoever with your, Amazon business or your Amazon career. If anything, it's not a big warehouse, obviously, but there are a ton of people who work out of their house, who work out of their garage. So the fact that you even have a commercial address or something that you can use as a commercial address, like a storage unit, you just use that to your advantage. So when someone asks for, if a vendor asks for your address, you give them that address, you give them a commercial address, as opposed to you're someone working out of your house. But, it's not a limit at all.
Let's talk about real quick, Larry, about professionalism with dealing with suppliers, right? So if you're going to use the storage locker address, or, is it your email at Hotmail, or do you need a website, or what kind of things could someone like Austin, who's a 16-year-old that maybe his mom doesn't want him bringing pallets of shit home to the house, what can he do to seem, bigger than he is, to seem more professional, to make sure he lands more accounts? Obviously, the space limitation just means he needs to turn the product faster and get it out to FBA as fast as possible. You could probably fit, 4 pallets in your storage unit. But what are the steps that he needs to take to, not seem like a 16-year-old? He has an LLC. He just got that set up, right? So he's on the path to moving forward. But what are the steps that Austin or any people need to take to, appear to be more likely to get deals with suppliers?
Well, that's it, man. I mean, if you are already a legitimate business entity, it makes no difference what your age is. You're no longer Austin the person. You're Austin LLC or Austin Incorporated. You're Austin the business entity. So you have that part down pat. The only other thing that I would suggest is it pays to have a professional email address. So when you're contacting people, you're not contacting them from, Austin69 at hotmail.com. You have a little bit of a, you have a professional email address that's linked to a domain that you own. Websites, they could help. They're not really necessary. Some of the biggest wholesalers that I know started without a website, currently don't have a website. So, people don't need to focus on the ins and outs of a website, but, that's pretty much it. And if you ever, find an account or someone that gives you any sort of issues in regards to your storage unit, as I mentioned to the other guy, Matt, earlier on the call, that's where it might pay in the beginning to have a prep center, because if you're using a prep center, that basically operates as your warehouse. If you're opening an account and a vendor asks you, hey, do you have a commercial space? You don't tell them, yeah, yes, it's an Amazon prep center that we use. You say, no, I have a warehouse. It's my own warehouse. Here it is. And you give them, the prep center's warehouse, and it's basically acting as your warehouse. But, aside from that, you have a legal business entity, you have an email, you have a resale certificate. That is all you need. The rest is then don't be too professional. The business is all about, when you're contacting these vendors, building relationships with them. And for that, you have to have a little bit more personality, be more personable, talk with them, build an actual genuine relationship, maybe call the supplier instead of just emailing them, and just things like that.
Cool. Hey, thank you for the value, man.
You got it, my friend.
Dude, we're just slaying it right here, man. I really appreciate that. So I've been watching from afar. I do have a complimentary review copy of your course, and to be honest, I am currently getting started to start taking it myself, me and my business partner, because the current situation we're in with Corona, I can't get any books right now. My suppliers are locked down. I'm paying $2,000 for a 2,000 square foot warehouse a month, and I can't even use it. The reason I have a warehouse is to store 60 pallets of books and a forklift. That shit hasn't moved for weeks. I'm literally skateboarding in my warehouse on the weekend.
At least you can do that.
That's it, right? I'm like asking for donations so we can keep the warehouse alive. But the thought of doing wholesale and it not being affected by this is super interesting to me, and not just because of this current situation, but also because my time is very valuable. I need to spend time with my family. I might have more opportunity to make money off of social media than I do have off of Amazon currently. So while books are a great way to turn 7 cents into $3.50, right? That's a huge percentage ROI that you're not going to get with anything else. It requires a lot of man hours, a lot of time, right? And so it's not it's not the best solution for people that have more time. Some people have money, some people have time. When you don't have time, you might be wanting to do different situation to make more money. You might want to start with books and then go to RA and then go to wholesale. I'm not saying books aren't something that you can keep doing forever. I'm just saying, depending on what your situation is, people might want different solutions, right? So personally, I am now going through Larry's Wholesale Academy. And like I said, the link is in the description. Anybody that signs up is going to get a free copy of my book bundle bolos, as well as some other bonuses that I'm going to whip up after this. But we got another live question. I know we're bordering on an hour. We're at 50 minutes right now. You're good for at least an hour, Larry?
Yeah, I'm good for 1 hour, and then I got to put the kid to sleep and eat some dinner.
Cool. What's the pooch? What's your dog's name?
It's Oliver. Oliver, say hi. You're about to be famous on YouTube. Look at this guy.
We're gonna bring in James Universe real quick. He got a question for you.
Oh, I know James.
What is up, James?
What's up?
James, what up?
I gotta give it to Reezy though. This setup's really nice.
Yes,
Thank
it
you.
is.
I appreciate it. Shout out James too, real quick, because I've seen James's career start from I believe you're in a dorm room, maybe, or living with your parents, and you were just like, yo, I got one box. And like, I swear I followed you from like the first $50 you invested into Amazon.
Yeah, so it's really funny. Just briefly, I was in the reselling game since like 2010, but like in a super niche area, I sold certain stuff. And then I was like, okay, I actually liquidated that business down. And then I said, hey, I'm going to save this money until I can build a bigger business. And Gary Vee did his like 2017 flip challenge. I formed my LLC. I did the whole shebang and I went at it. And you were the first person I went to because obviously you got a huge following right when that challenge went off. And now I'm paying myself a salary. And man, times have come far since then.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I'll bow down for a second and let you ask Larry a question.
Awesome. So I've got most of the business kind of down. I've got my prep costs incredibly low and all that stuff. But I feel like I've been chasing my tail on wholesale. Like I do have accounts. I have accounts I have a couple profitable ones, but like I've been stagnant for a really long time. And I've processed thousands and thousands of product leads and hundreds of suppliers. And it's just like, okay, I'm checking off basically every single one. And where would you go for like to either learn more or like expand? Like I either am not looking in the right places, or because I've done a lot of searching, but I really need some places that I can drop a lot of money at, because right now I have the capital, I have the logistical capacity, all that stuff, but getting distributors that I can quote build relationships with, as you have taught and many of others and all that stuff, I can do that part, but you can't do it if you don't have the distributor.
Correct. So as far as finding distributors, there are many different methods and places to find them. Everything from Google to trade shows and all the different methods in between. I would advise, if you have the capital and you have tons of accounts. It sounds like you have tons of products to buy. You've processed thousands and thousands of sheets and catalogs. I would say if you have the buying power, people when they start out, they're looking for a 25% ROI, 30% ROI. They want that 40% ROI, product. But if you have enough buying power to where you can buy 100,000 of a product, 500,000 of a product, 50,000 of a product, you can lower your expectations and not make it, where you're only looking for these gem unicorn type products that are going to return, 30, 40% to you. There is nothing wrong with you buying $100,000 worth of a very high velocity, very well ranked product that when you're running it through the price list, your software is only spitting up, this product has a 8-9% net margin. So you're going to pass it on by. But if you can move 100 grand of that product per month. Do it easily, not a lot of prep. Buy it, label it, send it to Amazon, and you're just churning 100 grand worth a month. There's nothing wrong with a product that's going to make you 8, 9, 10% net. The problem is when people are starting out and they're scanning wholesale lists, they're looking for show me a 20% ROI, 30% ROI, 40% ROI. And when you're starting out with, $2,000, $3,000, it doesn't make sense to look at those 10% products, those 9% products. But if you're saying, James, you have the money, you have the capital, you have the buying power, you could look for something that sells extremely well, where the price is consistent and the margin isn't super sexy because maybe it's 7, 8, 9% net, but you can move a lot of it. So then you're going to leverage your buying power to where you're not churning a huge profit percentage wise, but there are products out there that you can sell $1 million worth a month. And if you're going to make 5%, everyone runs a list. They see a product that makes 5%. They pass it without even thinking twice. But if you can move $1 million worth of product a month and make 5% on it, that's 50,000 net to you. So that's something you should consider, something that's a little bit more higher velocity, low ROI. And on the other side of that equation, and I think you might excel at this as well, there's a whole different niche to where you're looking for products that the rank is a little bit on the worser side. So if you're like, if your criteria for rank is you stop at 50,000, start looking for products that are 60 to 80 to 90,000, something that's above your rank threshold, but where you're finding something that's profitable. It's just not moving, selling very fast, but the listing isn't optimized. Not enough images, not enough bullets, not a good titles. So those are two different directions that you can go. It's very, people have had a lot of success finding items that are not ranked well and turning them around and getting them to rank really well. And then there's a really nice, sexy profit. And on the flip side, people who, it's a whole different business model within wholesale. There are different types of business models inside of wholesale. And one of the ones that is more popular is the high velocity or the very fast moving items that have low ROI. Those are what the mega sellers do. And if you have that buying power, look into those items that you can make 10% on that you're probably just passing by, but look for items that with very little prep, you can move a large volume, and then the actual dollars that you're going to make is probably going to make up for that low ROI. Hopefully that makes sense.
Yeah, that was a killer answer right there, Larry. Also, what about the listed price versus the price you can actually get with negotiation? How do you work that into your searches for products, right? Because if you're doing searches on lists that's based off the list price, you might be missing some stuff that you can get a hold of your rep and negotiate a better deal. How do you work that into your searches?
Well, I'm sure a guy like James is seasoned enough to know all about asking for, discounts. And I'm sure when he opens accounts with suppliers, he asks for discounts and he tells them he's willing to buy a lot. And he already does all of that stuff. So I'm assuming, and correct me if I'm wrong, James, anytime you're running a list, you already have your discounted price. You're running a list, you're doing a PO. One of the things that worked well for me in the past, when you send the PO to your vendor or when you run a price list through your software, send them your PO and then rerun that list after you've subtracted another 5 to 10% from their catalog, even if they say they can't do it. And then you send them, here's my purchase order. Here's what here's what I would buy at my current prices. But if you can give me 10% off, here's what I would buy. And that second PO, it's going to have a lot more SKUs on it. It's going to have a lot more volume. If they can't do it, they can't do it. But, you're just going to say, here's my purchase order at the regular prices. Here's what I'm going to buy. If you can do 5 or 10%, here's what my purchase order would look like.
That is such a good tip right there, man. That is the backdoor tip. I fucking love that, man.
Thank you, bro.
You just crushed it with that one, bro. So, any other questions, James? Did we answer your question?
Oh, I just wanted to comment. It's ironic that you mentioned the high volume, low margin type business model, because like right now I've trimmed down a lot of my SKUs, not intentionally, but just naturally. And my business is basically running on ridiculous volume, like 3-digit ranks, and I don't care what category you're in. 3-digit rank is pretty good.
Phenomenal.
So we've moved probably 15-20,000 units this month, just keeping the volume moving. But so I totally understand that mindset. I guess I just need to kind of keep hunting down more distributors. And I mean, I got a VA to help source, so I kind of got them to like at least trim it down a little bit more, so I don't have to go through the bulk.
Real quick,
But
James, I hate to interrupt
I
you, but I
understand
want
that,
to.
like, okay, lower my criteria maybe, but I've gotten to the point where I've kind of taken those bottom of the barrel ones, and yes, it's very helpful because I can move 5,000 units in like a weekend, on depending on the SKU. But at the same time, it's a matter of finding more reliable distributors that I can build relationships with. My best distributor, I literally say, I will take all of them. I don't care how much you got, and I don't care what my credit limit is. I'll make it work. So that one's kind of bought out. I'm looking for my next thing now that my cash flow is caught up, and I'm like, okay, I want to be able to like approach a distributor and say, hey, I can drop 50 grand, but if you can drop 5%, here's a $75,000 order.
Nice.
So finding those distributors will take time.
It's one thing, it's one thing to tell them, if you give me a discount, I'll buy more. It's another thing to say, here's my $50,000 purchase order. By the way, if you can do these prices, I'm sending it to you. Here's a $75,000 purchase order.
That is the hoodest tip ever. I love that shit. Hey, James, can you provide a quick little
Reezy,
tip?
So I guess
Can you not hear me, Larry?
Say thanks.
I can.
Okay. James, can you hear me? James cannot hear me. Hold on. James, can you hear me now?
Okay, maybe.
All right. Sorry, not. I guess James can't hear me. I wanted to have James share a little tip right there. James actually pivoted his wholesale operation to be merchant fulfilled using a third-party fulfillment service. So I thought that was really wise of him in his young career into the wholesale. And me and him have been sharing screenshots back and forth, and he was doing like a few thousand units a day, merchant fulfilled, but through a third-party fulfillment service. So basically still FBA, but not FBA because FBA has been delayed. And if you're selling products that aren't essential, et cetera, we got a couple more questions. I know we're past the hour. Can we get you for about 5 more minutes, Larry?
I got 5 more minutes for you guys for sure.
All right, cool. So Neil has a question. It's on the screen. Can you read that, Larry?
So Neil says, Larry, when using scanning software to run through wholesale list, how do you deal with currently unavailable ASINs being hidden, and also multiple ASINs of the same product? Is manual still king? Absolutely. Manually going through product lists or suppliers lists is way more not efficient, but it's way more effective, and you're going to find a lot more products if you're doing it manually. That's why when you look at some of the bigger Amazon sellers out there, they don't have one person just using a scanning software. They have a team of buyers, typically full-time employees that are buyers. And while these buyers might use, any type of list scanning software to narrow down the results, at the end of the day, the biggest Amazon sellers out there have professional buyers who are just sitting there and looking and examining every single item manually. And it's not efficient. It'll take a lot longer, but the results are going to be a lot better.
Awesome. Real quick, we're going to take one more video question from the Money Badger on Instagram and YouTube. What is up, William?
Money Badger, what up?
What's going on, man? What's going on, Larry? Hey, thanks again for the information. Appreciate the positivity. You talked about how you had several Amazon accounts for your wholesale businesses. Would you say important or necessary to have a separate account for wholesale? We're looking to transition our previous book business. During the COVID-19 thing, we had to pivot a little bit into retail arbitrage, probably like many of you guys, other guys. But I think coming out of this pandemic, the business is going to change, pretty much completely. I mean, we'd like to still do books, but like Reezy said, can't get books right now. So do I have to go through the process of getting a second account before I do wholesale, or would that cause any kind of conflict of interest with Amazon?
I don't think you need to have a second account right now, or you need to, change and pivot to another account unless you are going to keep that other account and do things that put your account at risk, like, like retail arbitrage, for instance, or things like that, that might be a little bit more risky. But if you're just looking to do a transition, I don't think you need a, second account or a different account. I think you are good to go, unless you're still planning on, doing RA at the same time, or doing something that might jeopardize one or the other businesses.
What is the most common mistake that people make in the wholesale business?
Giving up too fast.
Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah. So as I was saying earlier, the percentage of sellers who have failed and who have been in this business for less than a year is going to be a lot higher than the percentage of sellers who fail who are in the business for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years plus. So even if you're not super successful in that first 6 months, even if you're not super successful in that first year, as long as you are, and it sounds a little cheesy, but it's the truth, as long as you are always, you're still working hard and you're trying to improve and you're trying to learn and you're trying new things and you're trying to adjust to all the different, issues or things that Amazon throws at you, you're well on your way to being successful. And the most common mistake is, I've been selling on Amazon for 3 months. I've been trying wholesale. I've, contacted 300 suppliers. I haven't found the profitable product. I'm going to give up. You've contacted 300 suppliers, but you didn't contact 3,000. And if you contacted 3,000, you didn't contact 6,000. Eventually, if you just keep going, it's very tough to be a consistent Amazon seller for multiple years and not find some level of success that you can build on.
Awesome. Yeah. So with wholesale,
and I see, just to elaborate, I see one person followed up and said, why is RA risky? Why could RA put your account in jeopardy? And not just, there's a lot of Amazon rules or regulations. They might ask you to, provide invoices, and with RA, you might not be able to have it. And then something could happen, out of the blue, a black swan event like COVID-19, where your business model is based on, RA, and now no one's going retail arbitrage sourcing anymore. So, RA is not 100%, black hat, or is going to put your account at risk, but it does have a little bit more of a risk associated with it than wholesale. And if someone's willing to make the investment into wholesale and try to build a successful wholesale business, you don't want to at the same time be selling, used items or RA items and, commingling on those accounts.
All right. Great answer. Last question. I'm going to put you in the hot seat. Are you ready?
Let's do it.
All right. Why should I get the Wholesale Academy? Why should someone sign up for your Wholesale Academy over researching and doing it on their own? Why? Why?
I mean, listen, there's nothing wrong with doing it on your own. I've done it on my own. I didn't take a course or anything like that, and I had to learn the hard way. And, a course isn't, of course, for everyone. Some people don't want to do it, and you could for sure piece together all the information from watching my YouTube video and your YouTube video and someone else's YouTube video and just learning as you go. But, I'll give you guys an example. When I started selling on Amazon, I was taught by that very first guy that I worked with, I was taught, don't tell anyone what you do. The business is very hush-hush. It's very on the low. It's very secretive. Keep everything DL. And that's how I would operate for, the first 2, 3, 4 years I was in the business. Eventually, I found out that there was such a thing as online masterminds, Amazon FBA Facebook groups, a whole bunch of different successful Amazon sellers sharing their knowledge online. And as soon as I got into a community with other successful Amazon sellers and everyone started seeing what everyone is doing differently than I am, my business grew so much networking with other sellers more so than it has in the beginning. And one of the things that I have done with the Wholesale Academy outside of just the course is great. I think it's, you know, the best course on the market. But what I am most proud of is we created a private group. In this group, there are new sellers and there are legitimate 6, 7, and even 8-figure sellers in there. Everyone is networking. Everyone is trying to help each other. And when a newbie in the Wholesale Academy is in the group and he asks a question, he's going to get a response from a 6, 7, 8-figure seller or from myself. Literally coming from a genuine place of trying to help them, of trying to guide them, of trying to teach someone to learn from my mistakes. So I think having that network of other sellers that you can lean on, going at it alone is fine. But when you have 6, 7, and 8-figure sellers backing you up and, someone that you can turn to, like one of the things that I didn't have in the beginning, if I had an issue, I didn't have another 8-figure seller that I can get on a call with or that I can message and have them walk me through it. Aside from that, the other answer I can give you is why should you get the Wholesale Academy over doing it on your own? If you want to flatten the learning curve and be able to know inside of 2 months everything that it took me 4, 5, 6 years to learn, that's probably one of the other very strong reasons why you should consider getting the Wholesale Academy. And last but not least, you're going to have lifetime access to me. And I probably get 50, messages or DMs from people inside our inner circle that are contacting me on a daily and letting me know I am having this issue or that issue, and I hop on a call with them and I help them out. And that's probably the number one reason why you should get it, is to, expedite how long it's going to take you to learn everything on your own. And then just having access, it's not one of these courses where I sell a course and you just buy the videos and you're on your own. I am very active with the community, and anyone who's in my course, they reach out to me. I answer everyone's questions. We do a live just like this weekly. So even if there were no videos that you get with the course, just the fact that you have access to me and other 6, 7, 8-figure sellers, I think that's priceless. But again, do you absolutely need it? Is it necessary? Can you not succeed without it? No, you could succeed without it. But if you want to take that learning curve from 3 years and turn it into 3 months, it's worth the investment. If there's something maybe in there, one little thing that you might learn that might help increase your margins or your sales or your business, that in itself might be worth the $2,000 that you lay out for it.
Awesome. I really, as someone who is a marketer, but also a hustler and lived a previous life of thinking that, marketers were complete bullshit and you shouldn't have to pay for anything, I really respect that response, because that is the actual truth. All information is free. You can learn everything you want to learn about, selling books from my YouTube, but is it going to be step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4? No, it's not, because I'm forced to make stupid thumbnails and stupid titles to get you to click on it and to watch it. And it's not conducive to, A through Z to learn everything, right? And the access is paramount, right? That is the best part. So with that being said, if you guys want to sign up, the link is in the description. I am giving away a free copy of my book bundle bolos to anyone that signs up. That's a $67 value. I really, really appreciate your time, Larry. Hold on for a second as I throw the outro out, and then we'll have a little private discussion.
Well, and let me just say one last thing.
Come back in. Get it.
So, I don't like to come across as super salesy. People buy my course, they buy it, they don't buy it, no big deal. But I will say, and I'm not just saying it because I'm pitching my own course, I genuinely feel that this course is absolute hot fire. The Dylon type fire. Like if you want me to list the top 5 best, if you want me to list the 5 best wholesale courses, it's Wholesale Academy, Wholesale Academy, Wholesale Academy, Wholesale Academy. You know what I'm talking about? But if you want to try it before you buy it, I have put a free module on my YouTube channel. This is a free hour-long module directly from my course. It's on my YouTube channel, youtube.com/watchmeamazon. Go to my YouTube, watch an hour-long training module from my course, and tell me that one video alone is not worth $2,000, because I'm telling you it is. But other than that, dial on.
Hey, you also you have two options, right? You have a month by month option now too.
Yeah, so we have a couple of payment plan options. The course is $19.97. You get lifetime access to it and to me and to the mastermind and to the videos. I know someone else asked about other courses out there. This isn't a course where, most courses are 8 to 10 hours. I'm like 60% done with the course. I still keep putting out new videos, and we're like at 40, 50 hours deep. And I don't only show you, a lot of courses show you, like you said, the step-by-step. Here's step 1, here's step 2, here's step 3. I show you that, but then I also take another hour in every single module and show you me implementing those steps. So I give you the steps, and then you can actually watch, and I share my screen and I'm showing you me implement those steps. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, definitely. Appreciate it, man. I got to come out to New York and see you when this is all over, man. I can't wait to start traveling again. I've been cooped up.
Yeah, me too.
Like a chicken, and I can't take it much longer. But I really appreciate you giving us this hour of time for the show, hour and 15 minutes, actually. So if you guys are watching this and it's after the fact, please comment down below if you have any questions for Larry. I'm sure he'll pop in every once in a while and answer some of the questions on the YouTube comment section. If you guys want to sign up for the course, the link is in the description. I appreciate if you click on that. And hold on there for a second, Larry, as I do the outro. And you guys know how it goes. Remember, if you ain't flipping, you slipping. Peace.
Peace out, everyone.
Came from the sewer, but look at us now. Entrepreneurs making moves in the clouds, doing the family proud. Follow the hustle, stop tripping, gotta blast off. If you ain't flipping, then you slipping, get that cash out. Follow the hustle, stop tripping, gotta blast off. If you ain't flipping, then you slipping, get that cash out. Them OGs, follow the hustle, overseas, follow the hustle. Reezy, tell them to follow the hustle. Them OGs, follow the hustle, overseas, follow the hustle. Reezy, tell them to follow the hustle.